Here are the solutions to the exercises from Chapter 17 on bits. Here's our CD project again. Most of the changes have been in database.h and in input.c. Input.c and output.c, I guess, with nothing else changed. File.c didn't change, main.c didn't change, utils.c didn't change, at least they didn't for me. They may have changed for you, depending on how you've got your project designed. Let's look at database.h first. This is where most of the changes take place. First of all, we have the CD structure. And now notice that we just have a flags field. It's a set of booleans. We don't have an album field anymore. Next we create our two flags, an album flag and a comedy flag. I've decided that my second flag is going to be, is the album a comedy album or not? If it's not, then it's a musical album. And they are simply 1 shifted left 0, in other words 1, or 1 shifted left 1, which is of course 2. They're both single bits, of course. Here's the macro to turn things on or off. Test whether the condition is true or false. Use the conditional operator and simply do this. If it's true, if the condition is true, then turn the bit on like that. Or equals. Say that the flags or equal the bit. Turning off is as follows. The flagged and equals tilde the bit, which is exactly what we saw before in the employee example, except it's done inside a macro. Notice I used brackets absolutely everywhere. I went absolutely overboard in brackets, and you probably need to as well. You might not have gone overboard in brackets, and I suggest that you go back and put all the brackets in, because if you're ever going to reuse this code, and this code is a very lovely candidate for being reused, you might want to use this over and over again, then you want it to work under any circumstances, and it will not work under any circumstances unless you put all those brackets in, all of them. The second one is much simpler. It simply tests to see whether the bit is set in the flags, and if it is, return 1, and if it's not, return 0. Very straightforward. Okay, that's all the changes I made to database.h. Let's have a look at input.c. This is input.c, quite simple changes here, nothing very complex. Go to the end, and I've simply used my macro, my on-off macro, and I've passed it a condition like that, which is a yes-no, so that will always be 1 or 0. I've passed it the flags that I want to adjust and the actual individual bit that I want to turn on or off. I've done that for the album, and I've done that exactly the same for the comedy. Finally, we'll have a look at output.c, which is even simpler than that. Output.c is very, very simple, and there is my little isOn macro. I pass it the flags, and I pass it the album, and it returns 1 or 0, and I will put out the following details depending on whether it's an album or a single. Okay, so that's all there is to it. I won't bother showing you the program running because I'm sure you know how it's going to look, and I can promise you that I have tested it and that it works. How did you go?